Hello and welcome back to the Son of the Morning Comics channel. Today we're going to do a retro review. What you're looking at here is the Amazing Spider-Man Hooky graphic novel by Susan K. Putney and Bernie Wrightson. This book was released in 1986. I can tell you, well, I was like 6 years old and I remember the anticipation. Now, was that anticipation more me? Probably not. It was my brother and my older cousins. But I remember the anticipation. I remember that, I remember going to the comic store and getting this with my brother and my cousins and then bringing it home. And when I was 6 years old, I didn't read comics. I just looked at the pictures, and I remember looking at the pictures and thinking that this was, this revolutionary thing, because I think to that point I'd only ever seen comics on newsprint and not printed on nice white paper like all comics are printed on today. So at any rate, interesting story. So we'll get into it here. Now, the first few pages of the story are fun and quirky, but they really have nothing to do with the story itself. It's just Spider-Man, being Spider-Man, stopping a crime, and that sort of thing. Nothing bad about it. Well written, well illustrated, although I do have to say I find the way Spider-Man is drawn in this book to be kind of funny and kind of weird. But maybe that's just me. The story really starts here when this little girl shows up. Her name is Mandy, but she goes by Mandy. And she seems to know that even though he's in full Spider-Man garb, she knows that this is Peter Parker, which is of course concerning to Pete, but so he wants to know who she is. And so she introduces herself, and then she's just kind of gone. But she does tell him first that, she needs, she's in town to pick up some supplies to use against the Tordenkakerlak. I don't know if I said that right. Now, obviously, Peter doesn't know what a Tordenkakerlak is. But she says, if you want to help me or you want to see, meet me back here at 6:30 in the morning. And then she disappears. So here you can see Peter Parker studying up, trying to figure out what a Tordenkakerlak or whatever it was is called. And so basically what he comes up with is it's a thunder cockroach. And so he shows up there, and he's, there at 6:30, and she's late. She hasn't arrived, and Peter Parker is, lamenting the fact that she isn't on time, which is kind of funny considering that, like, Peter Parker's never on time for anything. But that's okay. But she does show up, apologizes for being late, and then, she's saying, it's hard to find all of this stuff she needs for her magic there in New York, I suppose. And then, she says, okay, let's go, it's time to go, and then Pete gets a little freaked out because there's a door that wasn't there before, and it wasn't there yesterday, and she starts to open the door, and Peter remarks that there's a half-forgotten scent flows from the open door. It's like spring felt when Peter Parker was 8 years old, a sweetness in the air, summer vacation, almost close enough to touch. So then you can see in this drawing here that she's opened the door, leading him down a very strange path here. And So this is definitely not your average fare for a Spidey story, but there's nothing wrong with that. And so Peter goes through the door and starts to, climb through this path, and he's definitely a little freaked out by all of this, but because, the door has disappeared, and it's not a good thing for Peter. He's not used to this sort of stuff. And he thinks that they're going up to this door here, but unfortunately not. That's not where they're going. They need to go into the wet space, as it's kind of referred to. So instead, they need to fly to their destination. So Mandy gives Peter a magical flying poncho, and off they go. And, she's telling him to be careful of the off-ramp type thing. But then this is the part that I absolutely love. So Peter doesn't do this successfully through the off-ramp, and he starts to fall down, as you can see. But as we've seen before, Mandy can make doors, so she makes a door for Peter to fall through, and he lands on a bed. And he lands on a water bed. And he says, "And what do I smell?" And what is it that he smells? He smells perfume. Because he is now in a harem. And you can see Mandy up here. This is, like I said, not your average Spidey fare here, but it's fantastic. And I'm just going to read this page to you because it's so great. He says, the smell of perfume. You have these ladies here saying, what strange garments, he must be a wizard. I want to see him do some magic. And then this lady here is saying, many men have tried to get into the wing of the palace, firm one, but you were the first through the ceiling. And then, and then Mandy's like, I mean, Spidey, come on, we'll miss the tide. And Spidey's response is, anybody here habla inglés? What say we hang around and grab the next current, Mandy? Peter doesn't want to leave. And she said, I can't wait, but I can wait, but the Torkin Kakerlak may not. It's growing, Then Peter's here. He says, I don't think the orientation lecture covered that. Okay, with great power comes great responsibility. With great power comes he's repeating it to himself like, okay, I gotta do the right thing, and so she says, thanks, Pete, and, he leaves the harem behind. So then she lets him know that they need to, fly through this little donut thing, but be careful not to touch the sides because it's, it's not good. Nothing good happens if you touch the sides. So they head in there, and Peter's thinking, well, it looks like a giant donut. What could possibly be so hard? But they get inside, and it's like this wind tunnel tornado thing. And she says for him to stay right in the middle of the tornado. If you contact the sides, you'll end up in the abyss. So, it's just wonderful for Peter. And I may as well mention it now because, and here they are getting to the other side. I may as well mention it now because they mention it a couple times in the story. Doctor Strange is brought up at the beginning as isn't this more of a job for Doctor Strange? She knows of Doctor Strange as well. And so he is brought up a few times. This is very much a Doctor Strange story, or a Strange Tales story. But, it is what it is. So, anyway, they've arrived in her world, which is called Cloud Sea. And, of course, he thinks it's a wonderful, dreamy place until he's attacked by a Torden Kakerlak. But you know, not a Tortenkakerlak, sorry, by another strange animal. That's got him by the throat, and he's in some trouble. And, you know, they work together and get rid of him, and then she points that, you know, that's where her ship is anchored, over there by this floating forest. And they, when they get there, she says to him, "Ta-da, the Nonsuch. The family yacht for generations." Now, me personally, I love this because there's a replica of the Nonsuch in the museum in my city, and it was one of the Nonsuch, actual Nonsuch ship was a trading ship that was very important in establishing the Hudson Bay Company, which it's not doing as great these days, but it was a big part of Canada and Canadian trading in the early days. So I just thought that was really cool because I've sat on the replica of the Nonsuch, so obviously I'm gonna find that kind of cool. So on this page, this is where we sort of find out really what's going on here. So, you know, she lets him know that although she appears as a 12-year-old girl, she's actually 219 years old. And that her father was a great wizard, but he had, you know, did murder another wizard by crushing the citadel that he was in. I suppose that's supposed to be her father. So he was executed. She, of course, as a little girl, the wizards didn't know what to do with her. They thought maybe they should kill her too because the family tradition. She may grow up to be a treacherous wizard just like her father. But at the last moment that her father had, he puts a spell on her, which keeps her as a child so that she can't grow up to be an evil wizard. So, interesting plot, like I said, very Doctor Strange-like here. So, and just like, look at how it's just a strange-looking Spider-Man face to me. And so here we get our first little peek at the Tortenkakerlak, and Mandy notes that it's grown. Peter says that look out, it's swerving for another pass. Maybe he can stop it. Which, of course, is not the easiest thing to do because, you know, he's holding on to its wings, but, you know, it's much stronger than he is. But they are able to eventually sort of get the wraps on this guy, and, you know, he flies away after Mandy uses the ship's sonar. But she mentioned to him earlier that this is her bane, this Tortenkakerlak, that she's been waiting her whole life for this bane to come and kill her, and now that it's here, and that nothing will work on it twice. So even though she's used the ship's sonar, she knows that that's not going to work on the, how do I say it again, the Tortenkakerlak, whatever. Let's just call him Hooky, because that's what the book is called. So, you know, it's only gonna work twice on Hooky, nothing's gonna work twice on Hooky. But what's kind of strange is that the way that this progresses from here. So Spidey is able to stop Hooky, the original Hooky, but the thing about Hooky is that it needs to kill her. That's what its mission is. And it starts to mutate and change into something else. But what's interesting is that it's not a quick monster. It's like it doesn't move fast. Everything is happening very slowly. Like it's almost like it's like this slow, agonizing death to come for Mandy. And it's really strange, but you know, he wants her to stay away. He's, you know, grabbing onto the pincers. It throws him away, but you know, you can see here Spidey spins a web up into one of these floating rocks up in the air and tries to zip them out of there. Unfortunately, they zip up to the non-such. The new form of Hooky wraps itself around the I don't know, the stern, I don't know, boat stuff, and then Spider-Man uses his webs to you know, basically strangle it, and it dies for the moment, but they know that it's only a temporary death. And then next it turns into this giant sort of bubbly monster dude that for some reason reminds me of Soda Popinski from Punch-Out, the original Punch-Out. So, you know, once again he's telling her to get out of there. And he just, like he said, now it's more of a more human thing, saying death for the child. Spidey's saying, I can only keep between you and this thing for so long, basically. And it's kicking his ass good. It says, death for the child, nothing stands in the way of Spindrifter's bane. So that's a pretty cool full-page show, almost full-page shot from 1986. So Spidey takes a harpoon from the non-such and then decides to impale this version of Hooky and at least, you know, take him out for the time being. And as Hooky sort of revives, this time he turns into like a giant sort of sarlacc pit looking thing. And this time it might be just a little more than Spidey can handle. It says, then suddenly looms terribly, fully revealed. And Mandy says, please Peter, make it go away, make it go away. It moves slowly, but from neither sluggishness nor indecision. Like I said, it all moves slowly. Only a monstrous certainty. Like I said, it knows eventually it's gonna get its hands on her. So Spidey says, you know, it's time for you to get out of here. I'll try to deal with this. You know, Spidey is the heroic guy he is, so he's gonna try to save Mandy, because with great power comes great responsibility. And so here we got Spidey, you know, right up in the mouth of the giant sarlacc pit Hooky, and then we get to see some acrobatics here. You know, she tells him that he's crazy before, and he's mad enough to show you just exactly how amazing Spider-Man can be. And she responds, Peter, your webbing, I've never seen you use it so fast, faster than Bane can snap and break it. So then they fly off, but Peter gets caught by, this is why I'm calling it a sarlacc pit. Okay, it's like Lando Calrissian here. He gets caught by like a tentacle of the sarlacc pit Hooky, and that's of course trouble. Because even though his super webbing does defeat the sarlacc pit Hooky, Bane thing, whatever you want to call it, it's not quite over there yet. And now it's, you know, morphed into a giant dragon, which is problematic for Peter. He quickly makes a web shield because he's about to be attacked by the fire-breathing dragon. Not a great sign for Peter, but he does survive it. And then he says, eat this, furnace mouth. And he says, and nope, and I hope you choke on it. And then he thinks to himself, that's all for my web fluid. Nothing to do but run and pray. But for some reason, the web fluid inside the dragon's mouth blows up the dragon, and you can see it sends Mandy flying, sends Peter flying. Overall, not a great situation, but they think that, maybe this might have done it. Maybe they've saved her. But no, it's turned into something even more disastrous and scary. At this point, Peter, knowing he's out of web fluid, he doesn't know what to do. So basically, he starts talking to Mandy about, you're a wizard. It's in your blood. You can do this. I believe in you. Mandy, you can beat this thing. And she says that she's going to try to remember. And, he thinks to himself, oh, please not let me be wrong about her. Because, this thing looks quite menacing. And for art in 1986, let me tell you, this was quite something. I remember just being blown away by this stuff when I was looking at it. So she conjures up as much of the spell as she can do. And you see the various mouths screaming from Hooky. Obviously, you're not happy with what she's doing. And whatever she does, she's finally doing it. She says, and the sham billing of the many heads rages its weaver. From the storm, from the beast, from the screaming wizard, rising, swelling, fighting until only one voice is heard, and by the law of Nemesis, a cold wind follows, abomination be dispelled. A cold wind follows, sweeping spindles of slime before it causes them to dwindle into the sticky vapor. They vanish altogether. Hooky is gone, and a very young woman sobbing for something forever lost. Okay, so basically Hooky has now been, killed. Mandy has saved herself. Cool picture of Spider-Man here. I really like it. He's gotten home back to New York safely, and this is a wraparound cover. This might be the first wraparound cover ever. Super strange Spidey story. Like I said, this is more of a Doctor Strange story. I do enjoy it. I do find the pacing a little bit funny because of just how slow the thing is there. But, it is what it is. I also find it absolutely hilarious that Spider-Man basically almost gets himself killed like 10 times, and she can save herself, and that's how it ends. That's pretty funny, but overall, a really good book. Like I said, this one's got nostalgia for me from 1986. So thank you for joining me here on the Son of the Morning Comics channel. Gonna be doing a lot of retro reviews. Don't have anything new to go over, obviously. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, leave some comments. If you want to visit me over on Twitter, the handle is @sonofthemorning7, and we'll talk to you later.